U.S. Attorney General Eric Garner saying that he knows that federal charges will be difficult to bring in the Garner case, but that he promises his investigation into New York City's so-called chokehold death will be thorough. Here he is yesterday.
There is, as you say, Evan, a high bar that we have to meet in conducting these civil rights investigations. But our history has shown that we have met that bar in prior investigations. And if that's possible with regard to the ones that we have underway, and if that is appropriate, we'll bring charges.
Judge Michael Mukasey served as U.S. Attorney General under President George W. Bush. Welcome, Judge. Good to have you here again.
Good to be here.
Welcome back to the program. So, you've got two cases now, and also the Trayvon Martin case that the federal government has sought to bring these kinds of civil charges against when there was no indictment found at the regional court.
These are criminal charges, Martha. They're not. I mean, they're civil rights charges,
yes,
but they're not civil charges. They're criminal charges.
So talk to me, exactly. So talk to me a little bit about the likelihood of success. He said it's a high bar, and they have to prove that his civil rights were violated, and intentionally so, correct?
Correct. Not only that, essentially that a crime was committed, which would have been a crime under state law, that is, an assault under improper circumstances, but also that it was done with intent to deprive him of his civil rights, and that's an enormously difficult bar to meet.
And in order to do that, you have to prove that there was excessive force. And in this case, you've got that video that will be analyzed to do just that, right?
Correct. And there are a lot of questions arising from that video, including how much pressure he was applying, what actually contributed to Mr. Garner's death. He was somebody who was asthmatic. He was somebody who was suffering from heart disease, as I understand it, and the fact that his neck was compressed, that was also disclosed in the autopsy.
Yeah, I mean, it would appear that the grand jury and their testimony and deliberations and the questions they asked is all secret. We don't know that, but the takeaway is that there may have been other factors that led to his death, and that would point in the direction of a tragic accident when an amount of force that was applied was typical, as we've heard from some police, in order to take the suspect down. Correct?
Correct. The people have made a lot of the fact that the autopsy said that the autopsy report said that it was a homicide. Yeah. But I think the important thing to point out there is that,
which is a death.
It's simply a death with a human intervention, yes, as opposed to a suicide or a death from natural causes or a death from ingesting poison or something of that sort. But it doesn't say that the homicide resulted from an illegal act.
You know, when you look back at these cases, because Eric Garner talked about the fact that the federal government has pursued criminal violations of human rights in the past successfully. In the Rodney King case, that was the case. Those policemen were acquitted, and then on the second round at the federal level, 2 of them were convicted, correct?
Correct. You don't have to go even out to California. There's a local case involving a man named Anthony Baez, who, as a matter of fact, was the victim of a chokehold death, was acquitted in a state proceeding in a trial before a state court judge, largely because of some technical defect in the way the case was presented. Then it was brought as a federal civil rights prosecution. But it's very dangerous to draw parallels because the cases are very different, the amount of force is very different, the 2 victims were very different.
What do you make of the fact that Eric Garner is pursuing these? There's also an investigation of the entire Cleveland Police Department for violations of people's civil rights, essentially, in the course of police duty there. And a very broad scope. You've got the Trayvon Martin case that's still outstanding. You also have the Michael Brown case, and now, again, this case from New York.
I think it's very dangerous to draw or suggest connections between discrete events that happen in different places separated by thousands of miles with very different ethnic and racial breakdowns. The Trayvon Martin case is different from the Michael Brown case, is different from the Eric Garner case. All different incidents. And I'd say I'd go out on the proverbial limb and say that the Brown investigation is as a civil rights investigation is going to go nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be. A jury has to be race blind when they look at these situations. And I listened to Eric Garner's daughter last night, and she said, I don't think race had anything to do with what happened to my father, in her words. She says he's a big guy. She believes that excessive force was used. That's her personal contention. But she doesn't believe that race was involved in this. And you look at other cases where, white people were acquitted as well, with white police officers in similar cases, and we don't ever hear anything about any of those cases. So, I know that you don't want to judge a sitting attorney general, and I understand that completely, but do you think that the inference that Eric Holder is drawing by grouping all these together is appropriate or not?
I think if he's drawing an inference, the effect of that is to raise people's expectations, or at least change their expectations about what the outcome might be. And that can be a very dangerous thing, because at the end, when there is no outcome, as there usually is in these cases, then you seem to have a lot of explaining to do.
Well, we will see where all of these federal cases go. There are many of them, and they appear to be the focus of the Attorney General's time in his office as he heads towards the closure of that office. Thank you very much. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Mukasey, as always.